All right, so hi everyone. It's me, Alex. We're gonna get started on the last real class um, of the course because we'll be moving into the final project. So the goal of this presentation will be to introduce you to some of the tools we'll be using during the final project, as well as get you familiar with some of the code pieces. So it shouldn't be too difficult. So let's get started. So what is processing? So you might be wondering why we're not going to use IntelliJ or anything else for the final project, but the reason we have decided to use this software called processing is that it's a very easy way to create graphics. So if you don't know already, the final project will be a video game. So obviously when you make a video game, you need to be able to like see things and draw things and make things move. And that's pretty difficult to do. So basically we're going to use this extra software to help us do it instead because we thought it'd be easier and it'd be just better to do it through this software called processing. So let's get started with that. So how do we download it? If one of the mentors could grab this link, you can also Google processing or put it into your search bar. It should be the first one that occurs. And basically you just need to download it. And once you download it, just open it, unzip the file, and then there should be something that says processing.exe, and you should click on that. So give that a try right now. I want everyone to have downloaded processing before we go to the next slide because we will be using it throughout this class. So that's very important that you do so. So also, please let us know when you finish doing this. So if you guys could send stuff in the chat when you're done, that would work. Or if you have any questions or any of that. Waleed, would you be able to share your screen? I'm not sure what you mean. You can just do it here. It's fine. I'm sure someone else probably has the same question, so just go for it. I see. I would click the non-Java one, I think. So now, the one above. Nope, not there. So go back. Yeah, just click just the one that just says processing. Yeah, that should be the .exe. Oh, did you? Oh, you haven't unzipped it yet, have you? Just click extract all. That'll work. Just click that. Yeah, make sure it extracts. Otherwise, it will be very unhappy. Yeah, so this is still zipped. You have to unzip it. Roa, I don't quite know what you mean. Would you like to share your screen and maybe you can see if everything's going all right? Okay, so I think you also need to unzip your file. So if you go back one, so if you press the back arrow, let me see. Can you click it again? Oh, can you click on downloads? Like you see there to the right? Yeah, that works too. Yeah, so can you right click on the file? Yep. Right click. Oh, nope, that's left click. So
maybe you can request to control her screen.
Oh, that might work. Do you know how to right click? Okay. I also think there's another way. So you can click into it if you click once. Just do what you did before. Click on the file. Nope. Click on the processing dash 3.54. Nope, that one. Click on it. Oh. Just do what you did before. Yep. Oh, there is no extract button. Never mind. Wait, can you click? Is that red? Do you see the red box at the top? Is that clickable? That red extract. At the top. There's a pink button. Yeah, right there. Where Rumesa is drawing, right there. Yeah, and then click extract all. Yep, that one. There you go. And then just click extract. It might take a little bit, but once that finishes, you should go into the new one and then that should work. So it'll take a second.
Okay, so I think we had 2 more students join. So Alex, would you like to explain what they need to do?
Sure. I will share my screen again. So for those who weren't here, you need to go to that link. It is in the Zoom chat. Then once you're there, click on Windows 64. Then the file will download. And once you download the file, you need to click on it and then unzip it or extract it, which I can show you. And then once the file is done extracting, you need to click on processing.exe once you go into the file. All right, I think I'm just gonna move on with the slides for now. We can debug slash fix any of the downloads that don't work out a little later. So let's just move on for now. Okay, so the way processing works as a whole is that there are many special functions and things that the software uses to do specific things. So the first of those, a very important one, is called void setup. It does what you think it does. It sets everything up. So this function is kind of like if we've used public static void main. Void setup is very similar in that when you press run, very simply, void setup will also be run, right? So the most common functions that you'll see is that there's a size function, and you'll give it a width and a height in pixels. And what that does basically is that will create a canvas, which we will see in a few slides. And then most commonly, you will see that you will set like alignment modes. So you can make rectangles and you can make text in processing. And when you do rect mode center or rect mode corner, it's basically different ways of stating where the rectangle is in like comparison to its coordinate. So say the rectangle mode is in center. If you put a rectangle at position 5,5, what'll happen is that it'll draw the center of the rectangle at 5,5. And when the rect mode is in corner, the top left corner of the rectangle will be at 5,5 instead. So those are the main differences. You don't really have to know too much about this, but that's void setup. Let's show you what it looks like. So it's very simple. It's just void setup, and this is an example of a 1920 by 1080 pixel canvas, which I'll also show you in a few slides, and what it looks like to set the rect mode and the text align. Cool. So this is the canvas. when you press run, so there's a little play button in the top left corner. When you make a canvas, you'll see this big gray screen because you haven't done anything with it yet. So it's pretty boring. But there's one very important thing. It's that, you know how in math, when we plot things on a coordinate plane or on a graph, the y coordinate starts at 0 down in the bottom left corner. Let me grab a pointer. So like this would be 0, 0 in math, but for some reason in processing, 0, 0 is in the top left. So as x increases, it's still functions like normal x, but as y increases, it actually goes down. So that means the point 1920 by 1080 x comma y would be this bottom right corner. So that's a little weird, but that's something that you'll have to keep in mind. So yeah. All right, this is probably the most important void or special function. So this is where you're able to draw everything. So basically, this will run 60 times a second. So processing will draw at 60 frames a second, if you know what that means. Basically, it means that every second, it will have updated 60 times. And yeah, remember when we did loops, imagine that it is a for loop that automatically just spins. It automatically goes. It automatically loops for you during your program. So usually you'll use it to draw shapes on your screen. And as usual, all measurements are in pixels. Right. So in void draw, we can set the background of our canvas using 3 numbers. If you've never seen this before, they're often referred to as R, G, and B. But basically, you specify the amount of red, the amount of green, and the amount of blue. And when you have values for those 3, you get a color. So for example, this would have 200 units of green out of 255, 30 units of blue, and 0 units of red. And this is the color that you would see. Just a nice green. Right. So once you add a background, the most common thing you'll see is rectangles. I like rectangles. So you use the function rect, it's shorthand for rectangle. You give it a position on the canvas, and then you give it a width and a height, and it will draw the rectangle at the place with the dimensions that you give it. And of course, you want your rectangle to be a different color than your background so you can see it. So in this case, you use the fill function, which just fills with another color. All right, little exercise here. Can you predict the location and color of this rectangle that we drew here? Would anyone like to type in chat or unmute their mic, or someone just tell me the general color, not super exact, what color this rectangle would be and where in canvas that it would be drawn? All right. So just remember our canvas size is 1920 by 1080. 960 is 1/2 of 1920 and 540 is 1/2 of 1080, if that helps. If anyone would like to answer, or if you have questions, please ask. Yeah, so it'll be in the center of the canvas, right? Exactly, because this is half of the maximum width and half of the maximum height. So it'll draw the rectangle right in the center. And it'll be red because we have 200 red, 0 blue, 0 green, and 0 blue. So let's take a look at what this looks like. Cool, now we have a red square because I was 50 and the square is 50 pixels by 50 pixels wide. I would have you add this to your own code, but I don't think everyone's quite finished it, so we can go back and do that once we get through the rest of the slides. So a very important skill or a thing that we can do in processing is that we can make things move specifically. So one thing that is quite different about processing is that you can use global variables. You just put them at the top of the program and they will exist everywhere. So for example, we could have an integer x position be equal to 0. And then here, we could just draw the rectangle with the x position as its x, and we could increment x each time that void draw runs. And I don't have a demo of it because I was going to have you guys do it yourself and then show me. But basically what will happen is that this rectangle will start at position 0 on the left side of the screen and slowly move to the right. It'll move one x position every frame. So after 60 frames or 1 second, it will have moved a position of 60. And eventually it'll just fly off of the screen. So I'll stay here for a second if anyone that has processing downloaded would like to try this code themselves and then share their screen and show us, because I don't really have it set up right now. So I'll leave you guys like 2 or 3 minutes to you can just copy this as it is. There's nothing really too interesting about it, and then show us what it looks like. And please, if you don't understand this part, please ask me any questions, because this like movement thing is pretty difficult, but it's a pretty important part of like processing. So if you have any questions, please ask them now in the chat or by speaking. So Waleed, what do you mean by that? I'm not quite sure what your question means. If you would like to elaborate or say more. Right. So yes. So if you open up so processing is like its own editor. It's like its own IDE. So if you open up the processing window, which is like the gray window, like you see here, you can just type directly into it. There's no public static void main. There are no like big classes. Well, there are, but not in this case. You just need to type in these things, and the computer will know what's going on. You'll see that eventually that when you do more complicated things, that the program is running Java. But for now, all you see are like really specialized functions, which is okay. So yeah, you don't need to do anything in IntelliJ. The final project will be completely separate from IntelliJ. So yeah. If anyone has seen the rectangle float across the screen and would like to share, that would be very nice and very appreciated. Or if anyone's having like any problems, please say so now, because we have a little bit of a break or like time to do things. Also, if I didn't make this clear before, all of these commands will only work inside the processing window or inside the processing editor. So please be mindful of that. A lot of these are programs that people have already written for you. So like, you should not try these in actual Java unless you have processing on your program, which you shouldn't really. So these are all specialized functions for this editor specifically, if that was confusing before. We'll need, if you see the floating rectangle, would you like to share your screen and show us what it looks like? Because I think it's pretty cool. Awesome. Yep, so that's what it should look like. Give it a run in the top left. Wow, the rectangle moves. So quite amazing, I'm sure. So yeah, if anyone has any questions about that series of code or what processing should look like, feel free to ask. But yeah, that looks great. It moves very slowly, sadly, but it does move. So yeah, awesome. All right, let's move on for that. If you don't have that yet, that's totally fine. So let's just keep going. Okay, I forgot to do that completely. My bad. There's a quick exercise here. I think I'm gonna skip it for now and then come back to it later. So I'll introduce that at the end. So there are more special functions. This is the last of them that we'll be needing for this project, but this is one that allows us to have a user like play the game. So if you've ever played a game before, you know that you need to like hit buttons or click keys or something like that. So there's a key pressed function in processing that lets us, that basically will tell us when a key is hit. In this case, it's called void key pressed, which is quite fitting. And it uses the key keyword, or it uses key. So key equals 32 is the space bar. But you can also do like the character A would be the A on your keyboard or other things. For this project, we'll be using the space bar, which is 32. So if key double equals 32, you can do something like print line, the space bar is pressed, or do something else. But that's basically what key pressed looks like, which is very fun. And now we'll be getting into like the more final project things, which I'll show you right now. So let me grab that real quick because I don't have it open yet. So all right, let me grab my full screen. Cool. Let's go with that. All right. Here. So this is what the final project looks like. It looks scary right now, but I'm sure you'll all be able to do it. So if we play the game, right, it's Flappy Bird. So if you guys know of the game Flappy Bird, it was really cool, like 5 years, 10 years ago. Probably not 10, many years ago. But you'll be creating this game for your project. So it starts on a start screen, right? If you press space, you will get to play the game, and it's quite boring, but it is quite fun and addicting. So I'm just pressing the space bar to make the white block jump, and then you just need to jump through all of the green bars, the pipes as they call them. And it gets slowly faster as you keep playing and keep going. And there's also a score in the top right corner. So yep, and then if you didn't see there, I accidentally skipped past it. But once you hit one of the green platforms, you'll get sent to a game over screen, and then you have to press space and you can play again, which is what happened. So yeah, very nice. So that is what the game looks like. That is what you guys will be making for your final project. So yeah, and I'm not sharing my screen, so I should do that. If there are any questions in the chat, feel free to ask them. So yeah, so all right, let me ask you a question. So something that's very important in a game is what I like to call game states, or basically like different like modes that your game is in. So would someone like to tell me in the chat how many game modes that they saw, or like game states that they saw in the game we just played? It's a little tricky of a question. Yep, so Waleed says 3. Does everyone agree with 3? Okay, it looks like people are agreeing with 3. I would also say 3. So the 3 that we kind of had was the start screen, right? Where we had that gray screen that was like play Flappy Bird. And then we had the play screen, which is where we played the game. We like had all the platforms and all the green platforms and like the block that was moving and all of that. So that was the state of playing the game. And then there's an end state, which is when you like hit one of the green blocks and you got the game over screen. So that was the end screen. So yeah, so if we remember how to make constants from quite a few weeks ago at this point, generally what you'll do is you can make constants for each game state. So like you could say the start state is equal to 0, the play state is equal to 1, and the end state is equal to 2. And then you would have one variable that keep tracks or like track the current game state. So integer game state equals 0. So that means that the current game state, when it's equal to 0, is equal to the start state. And this is something that you can do to make your code very organized and very easy to read so that your program always knows what's supposed to happen. So I think there's some code here. So before, as we saw, we used void draw to make our moving platform. But what I would recommend here is that when you have to draw different things at different times, you can just use an if statement. So if the current game state is equal to the start state, you can run draw start, which is a function that you can write yourself. And then same thing with if it's equal to the play state, you could do draw play. And with the end state, you could do draw end. And this is just a way to make your code really easy to read and really simple. So that, and it also makes it so that you always know what is going on at the correct game state. So that's like something that you'll have to do for your program as well. So another thing that we saw are platforms. I'm not going to go too into depth with platforms because the project itself will have a lot of it, but I'm going to try to introduce some of the things that happen because it can get a little complicated. So obviously there are a ton of platforms in this game. The way that you're going to kind of see that the way you create them is that platforms come in sets of 2, right? Because there's a little hole in the middle. So that's something that is very good, is that they all have the same, 2 of them share the same X position, but then have different widths and different heights and have like a random sized gap inside them. Furthermore, obviously you saw that this game will go on forever. So because the game has to go on forever, platforms that you already pass have to be deleted. And you need to generate new platforms when you run out of platforms. And if we remember from last week, we have a data structure called array list. And basically what we do is that we have an array list that stores all of the platforms. So we make a platform class. If you remember the homework from week 5, I want to say week 6. It was week 6. You guys actually made a platform class, and this is like the application of the platform class that you guys are going to use. And it's also an application of array list, because you need an array list to store all like 20 and 50 platforms. And yeah, and then once you have the array list of platforms, it becomes very simple because you just want to draw all the platforms and all of that. So yeah. So here are the instructions to the final project. You don't have to read them now, frankly, but yeah, there is a document that is linked here if you would like to look at them. It'll also tell you how to get started with downloading the final project, because so the way the final project looks is, let me grab it actually, so I can introduce it to you guys. And it's going to take a second to load. So give me a second. All right. Let me change my share screen. So basically what it looks like is that there are a lot of empty functions, many empty functions, and a bunch of numbered to-dos. So you'll download this code off of GitHub or this version, and then what you'll have to do is there'll be instructions that are kind of vague, but also very helpful, such that you should get an idea and like try to fill it in as much as you can. And then when you can't figure something out, you should go ask your mentors for help, because that's what we're here for. And they're just an application of a lot of things. So like you see the draw function, you see all these different functions that all have very detailed instructions on how to do them. And that's basically the entire final project, is just making the game work and filling in as much of this as possible. With the help of mentors, of course, because that's what we're here for. So yeah. If there are any questions about that, now is a very good time to ask. If you're wondering about how stressful it is, or like it looks scary, it's not. You'll have upwards of 3 weeks to work on it. So you'll be given plenty of time to like just work and do like a few hours each week, and you'll be able to complete it for sure. Also, next week's class time and the next couple weeks of class time will also be dedicated to these final projects. So you get plenty of time there to work on them. So if there are any questions, feel free to ask them now. And also, we should be debugging processing downloads right now. So if you have any questions about anything, please ask them. Real quick, because otherwise we're going to get into, I think, a quick exercise and maybe some breakout rooms so that we can make sure all the downloads are ready and all of that. So if no one has any immediate questions, I'm going to introduce the exercise, and then I'm going to send you all off to breakout rooms with your mentors. So we can figure all of that good, so that we can make sure all the installations are there and we can talk through like everything with your mentors, because I think that's a little easier than doing it in this setting. So mentors, be wary of that, and also students. So let me introduce this quick exercise. So basically, you should take the moving rectangle code that we had from before, and you want to make the rectangle bounce off, sorry, that's a typo, off each of the edges. So when the rectangle hits the right side of the screen, you want to make it float to the left. And when the rectangle hits the left side of the screen, you want to make it float to the right. So basically, you want to make it bounce off each side. And the trick to this is to use a nice if statement. So that's cool. You should definitely try that. So that's the exercise. It can be pretty challenging. So it looks simple, but it's actually quite tough. So if everyone has the slides link, that's all good. I think I'm going to send you off to breakout rooms with your mentors. I don't quite know how to do that, I'm going to be honest. So if someone could figure that out, anyone, whoever is the host.
Yeah, I can do that. Give me a
Awesome.
moment.
Hey everyone.
Hello.
Hey everyone. Hi. Okay, so I started with making some integers. This integer for the 0 position on the left side on the screen, and this for the right position, the end of the screen. This is the integer, the value of the rectangle, and this is the value that the rectangle gonna shift when it reaches the edges. Okay, now this is the setup, and this is the setup for the rectangle. And here I use some loops, and yeah, that's it.
Does anyone have any questions about that? Yeah.
Nice job.
Is it okay to stop sharing now?
Mm-hmm.
Great.
First of all, does anyone have any questions for Walid?